So here is a story on March 11th in the Freeman about a complaint that Doerr is making to them about Fischer's sign. In his letter, Doerr wrote, quote, "One might ask themselves how it is that a village president, along with 3 sitting trustees, find themselves to be on the same campaign sign without having properly noticed meetings or creating an illegal walking quorum." Was Doerr really asking a question or just trying to sow seeds of doubt and smear his opponent? For me, the answer to that is obvious. If Doerr was really concerned, he could have called the Attorney General himself rather than laying it at the door of the Freeman and then hoping that it gets into the paper to publicly smear President Fischer. Here is my letter to the Freeman as printed March 13th, but I'm not going to read through it. I'm going to let you listen to me read it to the village board on Thursday, 2 days earlier. With the interruptions, it's 3.5 minutes long, so please bear with me.
Sandy Hamm, West 230, South 3827, Milky Way Road. I was disappointed this morning to see a story in the Freeman relative to the village. For those that haven't seen it, it's a complaint. It was actually a letter written to the Freeman that they wouldn't publish, but they made a story out of it, and it's Mr. Doerr raising concerns about a campaign sign used by President Fischer and his supporters. And I've sat here for 15 months listening to campaigning going on during meetings and kept quiet and thought I should say something, but I haven't. But I'm going to write to the Freeman. I have already submitted to the Freeman. And since many of you may not get the Freeman, I'm going to share with you what I say. The title is Fischer Campaign Sign Tells a Story. Regarding his, quote, concerns, end quote, about Village of Waukesha President Brian Fischer's campaign sign, Trustee Michael Doerr is grasping at straws, as he has been consistently since he lost to Fischer the last time around. There is nothing inappropriate about the Fischer-Stigler German
Mr. President,
sign.
are we going to allow this campaigning during citizens' comments of a town
Yes,
or a village board
I'll allow him
meeting?
to make his citizens'
Oh, how
comments.
convenient it is that you'll allow it.
Proceed, please. Thank you.
I'll go back. There is nothing inappropriate about the Fischer-Stigler German Kolinsky sign as detailed in the Freeman's page 3A story Thursday, March 11th. Quote, one might ask, end quote, why is this even brought to the Freeman, other than an obvious attempt to besmirch his opponent in the press? Doerr could just as easily have contacted the state attorney general's office himself. But
I
then
thought
there-
we didn't allow
but
personal
then there
attacks
would be-
during citizens' comments, Mr.
but
President.
then there would be-
This is a point of order. I thought we didn't allow personal attacks during citizens' comments.
Why is this a personal attack?
Okay, stop, everybody.
He's pointing people out on the village board. That's a personal attack.
Well,
How
it's
many
only-
times has he mentioned my name?
Well, he's expressing an opinion as a citizen on
Not
an event
opinion.
that occurred.
It's a personal attack, and we've never allowed that, appropriately so, in citizens'
All right,
comments.
we're going to stop here, and we're going to allow him to continue. Go ahead.
Amazing that that's going to happen.
It's amazing that it's an issue. So, but then there would be no story in the paper. What the campaign shows to Doerr and the community as a whole is that 3/4 of the village trustees support President Fischer's reelection. That means all village trustees support Fischer's reelection, except, of course, candidate Doerr. That seems like a pretty strong statement of support from the board for their president. It's no wonder Doerr is concerned. Fischer is successfully leading the village board and serving the village of Waukesha well. I'm exhausted by all the frivolous, petty grievances aired both in village board meetings and in the press. You'll see it in the paper tomorrow or Saturday. Thank you very much.
Is there a motion to go into closed session for those purposes?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Supervisor Radke, second by Supervisor Stigler to go into closed session. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Doerr.
Do we know how many closed sessions this has been by this board?
Too many?
Okay.
Supervisor Doerr?
Aye.
So even though I did not believe Doerr's concern was genuine, I went about searching the database to find out how many closed sessions there had been so far in the current administration, as well as going back about 5 years. At the August 22nd, 2019 board meeting, I presented how I did my research and then showed the results. There had been 5 so far during the current administration, and then I tallied the results for the previous, I don't know, looks like almost 8 years. And then I presented that during citizens' comments. I gave you a handout there. At a couple of the recent meetings, as you guys go into closed session, there's a question, how many have there been? And I'm not sure that the question is really seeking a numerical answer, but that's what I wanted to provide. It's very easy to go in and search the database for how many there are. And I went back probably 5, 6, 7 years and gave you comparisons for how many there have been. Later in the meeting, Supervisor Doerr acknowledges my contribution and had a few questions for me.
Is there a motion to go into closed session?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
And is there a second?
I'll second it.
A motion by Supervisor Radke, second by Supervisor Stigler to go into closed session. We need a roll call vote.
Can we have some discussion, John?
Sure. Go ahead.
So I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Hamm for producing the document that he handed out at the beginning of the meeting, outlining how many closed sessions we had in various years. I noticed and wonder out loud if April 1st, 2019 to present was left off. I was wondering if maybe somebody knew how many closed sessions we've had.
That's at the
since
top.
April 1st. Oh, it's at the top. Okay, the answer to that is 5 then?
Yes, sir?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So this would be 6.
Yes, sir?
Any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Chairman Fischer?
Aye.
Supervisor Doerr?
Aye.
Here is an agenda item from August 11th, 2019, a discussion about discussion, in which Macy expects there to be no meeting of the minds. It has to do with how motions, seconds, and discussion take place and what constitutes, quote, discussion.
Code of Ordinances listed for Chairman Fischer and Supervisor Doerr. Mike, you want that one?
I believe this was put on the agenda under your direction, not mine.
Well, it was.
I suggested it be on the agenda, so I'll start. There's a difference of opinion on the interpretation of the ordinance. The quickest way to deal with that is not to have lengthy discussion necessarily on whose interpretation is correct, but what does the board want to do so that the administrator can correct the ambiguity. And that's I don't think we're going to have a meeting of the minds as to which interpretation is correct. I could issue legal opinions all day long, but what good would that do? I think we should just decide, does the board want to allow discussion before a motion is made or not? And if that's the case, then we'll just direct the administrator to clarify the ordinance to that point. So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, does everybody understand the issue? There's a difference of opinion on how to interpret the ordinance. And that's just a fact. And you can read the documents to see that there is strong feelings and a difference of opinion. We should just write it the way you want it and move on. That's my opinion. Maybe I'm sticking my nose in too far. You can tell me to shut up, but I thought we should just cut to the quick, and it was my recommendation that we cut to the quick and ask the board what they want, what procedure they want.
I'd be interested in your legal opinion, but apparently you're not interested in giving it, so I'll let the others chime in, I guess.
Well, I'm always interested in giving it, but I don't want to waste, what difference does it make if I give a legal opinion one way and that's not the way the board wants to do it? We've wasted the town taxpayer money, and I'm not here to
I'm
waste it.
satisfied with the ordinance the way it's written.
But it's your interpretation, though. You're satisfied with the way it's written if we interpret it your way. And Mr. Fischer, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, is satisfied with the ordinance too, if you interpret it his way.
In Mr. Fisher's January 1st, or excuse me, July 1st email, I think he agrees with me. He says, typically, in my opinion, members of the town board or the planning commission should not engage in debate unless until a motion is made and seconded and clearly understood by all present. If and when we head down that path, the chairperson of the meeting ought to remind all present of the need to place a motion on the floor.
Okay, time out for a minute. You read a part of my response,
Would
which,
you like me to read the whole thing?
no, I'll read the whole thing, thank you,
Okay.
which respectfully was taken out of context. I'll read the entire thing as long as you want to go down that path. And I wrote to you, as you correctly point out, on July 1st. I responded to your email communication of Sunday, June 30th, and I'll read my response. I said, "Good morning, Mike. Respectfully, I disagree with your interpretation / representation that our ordinance calls for there to be a motion and a second on the table prior to any debate or discussion. Rather, the ordinance says that, quote, there shall be a second to any motion prior to any debate or discussion of the motion." And I underlined those three words: discussion, debate, or discussion, motion. You overlooked those last three most important words. Simply translated, lacking a second, the motion dies. The ordinance does not prohibit the dissemination of information, the asking and answering of questions which are posed to clarify and deepen the understanding of the issue / matter, or preliminary discussion on the matter prior to someone making a motion. Then I'll reread it, the part you took under context, but typically, in my opinion, members of the board or the plan commission should not engage in debate unless or until a motion is made and seconded and clearly understood by all present. If and when we head down that path, the chairperson of the meeting ought to remind all present of the need to place a motion on the floor. Furthermore, consider that many items on the agenda are couched in terms of discussion and possible, emphasize, underline for emphasis, action. To me, this is indicative of the reality that some agenda items are discussed and not acted upon. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration. And I'll just add one thing to it, Mike, and I don't mean this unkindly to you in any way. We shouldn't even be talking now if there's not a motion on the floor.
So let's put one on the floor.
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, I'll make a motion for discussion of section 2-58, motions and voting.
All right, the motion dies for lack of a second. Where would you like to go next?
Okay?
Okay. All right, and my deepest apologies to all.
That was about the quickest. Wait for a second since your chairmanship.
All right.
This contentious and constant campaigning by Mr. Doerr has been going on since before the last election, when the candidates announced themselves for the election in April of 2019. I could go on with examples that would take us well past the 14 minutes that this video is going to take. I attend nearly every meeting, and I think all the board members bring something valuable, but I don't think that Supervisor Doerr is ready to play well with others. 3 of our board members are running unopposed, and all 3 of them support the re-election of President Fischer. I'd like to see Trustee Doerr realize that everyone is playing on the same team, and maybe then he would be ready to lead the board. I'll be voting for Brian Fischer for president of the village board, and hope you will do the same.